Well, good evening and welcome to the Thriving Dentist Academy's annual expert panel webinar series. This engaging one-hour session is designed for dental professionals and practice owners who are looking to elevate their leadership skills and operate their practices like a thriving business. Our panel of renowned industry leaders will be sharing actionable strategies and valuable insights to tackle the unique leadership challenges faced by dental professionals today. Engage with your peers, ask questions, and leave equipped with actionable strategies that you're going to be able to implement immediately. Welcome to our panelists for this evening. We have Sadie Stewart, Lisa Copeland, and Dr. Anissa Broussard. Welcome. It is great to have the three of you with us. Today, with our expert panel, we will be discussing the power of recognition. I love this title. Motivating your dental team through appreciation. Boy, we all always think, anybody ever said, hey, listen, that's too much. You've encouraged me too much. It motivated me too much. I don't think we ever hear that. So I think this is going to be a great opportunity for us to really dig into that and really see the value of appreciation. But before we dive in, let me ask you this question. When potential patients in your area search for treatment you offer, does your practice actually show up? Or are they finding your competitors instead? This is a major challenge for many dental practice owners. You might be offering amazing services, but if you're not visible online, you're missing out on a steady stream of new patients. The good news? The very good news, there's a fix. With the right digital marketing strategy covering local SEO, targeted ads, and funnel-based content marketing, you can not only attract more inquiries, but convert them into actual patients walking through your doors. And here's the best part. Because we have tonight for you something special. As a thank you for your attendance, the Thriving Dentist team is offering a complimentary 60-minute consultation for all our attendees. The link is going to be in the chat, and we'll talk a little bit more of that as we move forward. But this is an opportunity for you to take your online presence to the next level. The actual link is thrivingdentist.com/marketing-strategy-meeting /X panels, EXPANELS. But as I say, you'll have that link in the chat and you can go ahead and book your marketing strategy meeting. But I will talk a little bit more about that. But tonight, this is going to be a 1-hour question and answer discussion in which we'll ask our speakers questions that have been specifically groomed and developed for them. And we're really excited to bring these to you. And before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to introduce our panelists. And I'm going to start out with Sadie. Sadie Stewart has been a key figure in the dental community since 2010, contributing to the advancement of dental practice through her expertise in operational efficiency, patient care, and innovative technologies. As a certified dental technology instructor and territory sales manager for Dexus Imaging, Hawaii, she trains professionals and bridges the gap between cutting-edge image solutions and practitioners. Sadie is also the founder of Office Swell LLC, a Honolulu-based dental consulting firm where she helps practices optimize management and operations. She is passionate about mentoring emerging dentists, providing team training for best patient care, and giving them valuable tools to succeed in what is a very competitive field. Our next panelist up is Lisa Copeland. Lisa is a renowned as a leading authority in dental team communication and serves as the CEO of Communicate with Influence. Not only is she a Generation X professional, but she's also an accomplished author, Ironman, coach, and an international speaker. Her diverse global experience spans from the US and Europe to Southeast Asia, enabling her to bring a wealth of firsthand knowledge to her coaching. Throughout her varied career, Lisa has held multiple roles within dental teams, a fact that amplifies her coaching efficacy and allows her to relate directly to her clients' challenges and triumphs. Dedicated to promoting optimized communication strategies, she passionately, there's that word passion again, she passionately guides dental teams towards achieving heightened profitability and enhanced performance. And our third panelist for tonight is Dr. Anissa Broussard. Dr. Broussard has made a name for herself as a leading expert in EBITDA growth and online education. Dr. Broussard holds a fellowship with the Dental Speaking Institute and has received invitations to keynotes at events like the AACD and contributes to publications like Dental Economics. At the helm of delivering wow dental education, Dr. Broussard and her team help dental practices achieve exponential growth through team transformation, leadership, effective case presentations, schedule and systems optimization, and high return marketing implementation. She's also the co-founder of Digital Floss Agency and DentalFlix, the premier online education platform for top-level training for independent and group practices. Welcome to all three of you. As you can hear from those profiles, we have got some amazing experts with us with great insight, going to have some great best practices for us. And as we said at the outset, an opportunity that you can implement things immediately. Hands-on, useful, tangible information for you. You'll see from on the screen right now the main points for today's discussion that, and based on what we just heard, I'm confident this will be a very insightful webinar. But I do want to take a moment and just make a special thanks to our sponsor for this episode, Equa Marketing. With nearly 20 years of experience, Equa Marketing is a leader in digital marketing services for dental practices. Equa provides a range of services such as website creation and maintenance, call tracking services, SEO optimization, paid advertising, and much more. Now, as I mentioned that this is a Q&A discussion, I'm also going to encourage you as one of our viewers or listeners that if you'd like to, the chat will be live. So if you'd like to put a question in, please go ahead. I'll be watching those and we will make sure we get the question answered live in real time with one of our panelists. But if we don't, I can tell you that our Liana, our podcast manager, will make sure we get the question, grab it, get an answer for you and get it to you. So nothing hits the floor, nothing falls between the cracks. We really appreciate your questions. Comments, feel free to put comments in. If you're identifying with something or you've had something you want to share with the group, please do that. We always like thumbs up and happy faces too. So without further talking from me, let's go ahead and let's jump into our questions. And the first question I have tonight is for Sadie. And Sadie, the question is, what are some proven strategies you've used to keep your dental team motivated and engaged even during stressful periods? You mean there's stressful periods in dental practices? Really? I didn't know that.
Never. It always, every day just is so smooth sailing, you know. Patients show up on time and the team leaves all their troubles at the door and they don't fight with one another. Yeah. I think this is, you know, when I travel around to different dental offices and work with my clients, I think this is number one that I talk to leadership about, like the dentist and anybody who's in that leadership management role, is to really understand of how to navigate when there's going to be a stressful time or something in the practice that just kind of upsets the whole day, because then it's just going to set the tone from that point forward. The whole rest of the day is going to be shot and no one's going to be happy to be at work. So I think a few things, strategies that I really kind of talk about is really to have the flexibility. Everyone kind of needs to be really flexible in the day to understand if patients are going to not come or if someone shows up early or leaves late. Someone is sick, you have to reschedule a whole day of hygiene maybe, or your main assistant's out. Remaining flexible in that and having empathy in the reason why the day has kind of changed is huge. I think there's a lot of type A, like rigid personalities that just want it that, you know, that way every single time. And without that flexibility, it becomes very challenging to bring down the really stressful periods in the office to kind of get through the day. And then, of course, you know, just having empathy if someone couldn't find a babysitter or, you know, their car won't start or something like that. Just kind of having a game plan on how to be flexible and how to kind of pick your team back up to get through the day.
Thanks, Sadie. I like that. So I hear you saying, you know, flexibility and empathy and a game plan. I think that's I mean, all of us can say, well, I can be flexible, I can be empathetic. But unfortunately, in the heat of the moment, when stuff is hitting the fan, how well are we doing that if we don't have a plan?
Yep.
And
And I'm a huge, oh, sorry.
You go right ahead, yeah.
I'm a huge fan of cross training. I think that if there are just siloed positions within an office, and no one can kind of go front and back just in the interim time of being in that flexible period. It also kind of, it's not pushing and pulling people one way or the other way that they don't want to, but having someone from the front desk that could just get up and go flip a room real quick, that might ease the back office for a slight, you know, change if the assistant's not there and hygiene's having to do something. Or, if the hygienist has someone who cancels, they can kind of come up and help the front desk, maybe do some confirmations or just kind of try to fill the schedule or something like that. So I think teamwork and being kind of cross-trained can help that flexibility in those really stressful times.
Excellent. Thank you, Sadie. And I think you've picked a very intuitive word to say cross-training, given who's going to speak next and her Ironman background, Lisa. How do you recognize and reward high performance without creating unhealthy competition?
So the last thing you want is competition, right? It's the recognition should be to unite the team and not create that competition, even though I'm a very competitive person. So you want to celebrate wins as a team. And to do that, one of the things I always ask them is, how do you want to celebrate? If we have a big win, we have X amount of dollars for celebrating. How would you like to celebrate? Because everybody's going to contribute really good ideas to that. And smaller wins, if you give them a budget and say, hey, we had a good win, let's celebrate. What would you guys like to do? And then you're going to come up with something that everybody is going to be comfortable with. With individuals, it's a little bit trickier, only because you have to know your team members really well. And so some individuals want to be recognized in the spotlight. Other individuals don't. They don't like the spotlight. And so you have to really know your team members, and what matters to them the most is going to be the best way to show them appreciation without creating that competition. So it's all about, having shared goals that you achieve and not a solo spotlight all the time.
I love that. I'm a huge advocate for celebrating the wins. We actually we call it that. We talk about it, and I don't know if this makes sense, Lisa. When we look at an organization, there's a transactional space about what we do and how we do it. There's a relational space about who we are and why we matter. When they're working well together, the creative space comes out where all the good stuff lies. But we talk a lot about celebrating the wins, both relationally and transactionally, both what we've done and how we've done it, which is great sometimes, and that's where KPIs tend to hang out. But then how we did together as a team and people, and how did we celebrate the relational side of who we are and why we matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that I find that I'm hearing in dental practices that's something that you do. That doesn't happen in a lot of other sectors that I'm involved in, but it sounds like so. Does that make sense, Lisa?
Oh yeah. And I think more and more people are becoming aware of being inclusive and also creating an environment where the team can celebrate, because everybody wants to be appreciated, even more so now after COVID. People want to know that they're appreciated, and it's an easy way to just get the team together and say, hey, let's go celebrate. What do you want to do?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Lisa. The next question I have up is for Anissa. And Anissa, how can marketing help clarify your vision, unify your team, and expand your reach to serve more people?
Yeah, so as we're looking at clarifying your vision, when I think about marketing, what I think about is it is how you can help people to see you as your authentic self so that you can help more people heal. And the first part of it is really thinking about, what do you want to be known for, right? So if you want to be known for being an airway practice, or you want to be known for doing dental implants, right? If you want to be known for, I talked yesterday to an owner of a DSO, and they have Medicaid practices, right? And so if they want to be known for having kids come in who it's not their fault, right? That they are now on Medicaid, but we're going to treat them like they're kings and queens, right? Because that's what they deserve, right? That's how marketing is able to really let the community know who you are as your authentic self from your heart. And so I think it's really powerful. I think it also allows you to be able to share your vision of how you want to be known for people that are looking for a heart-centered practice to work in. And so it allows people to be able to see the culture and who you are. And we see that happening as well.
Yeah, I love that. And this, I think that term authentic self, it's interesting. I mentioned you, all three of you use the word passion in your profiles. And if I asked each of you what you're passionate about, you would tell me it'd be I'm pretty sure you'd tell me about you're passionate about something about who you are and why you matter. And then but through that, what you do and how you do it. And I think it's that, but I think often we don't stop, like you're saying, this is to really say, okay, what is my authentic self? What is that real? So let's break this thing down. Like I'm passionate about who I am, why I'm at, but do I stop and consider that? I do a lot of coaching where I'll have people come into my office, coach, and they're 50 years old and they're not happy. They've been down a road that was just about what they did and how they do it. Now they've suddenly lost sight of who they are and why they matter. And we have to peel back the onion. It's a lot easier to jump on what Anissa is saying and address that today rather than what's the saying, best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Next best time is today. So yeah. Thank you, Anissa. The next question I have is Sadie. And the question is, what are some non-negotiable values or behaviors that shape your team culture?
I really love this question. When I first was thinking about it and going through, a list, I really wanted to write down a list of what I thought. And then to take it a step further, I went to all my clients and I asked them, because I have some teams that are very successful in what they do, and they're just powerhouse teams that just don't even have to speak to one another. They just kind of they gel, they work so well together. So I wanted to ask those doctors and those teams what they had thought, and all of kind of what I had mentioned was very on par. And so I kind of went through and did little check marks to see which one got like the top vote. And I think the biggest one was accountability. So if everyone's being held accountable and they're doing the job tasks that they are set to do, and they're not pushing their work off onto anybody else, and they're if something goes awry that day, they're taking full accountability of, hey, that was on me. I was supposed to do that. I missed that. I didn't ask for help when I needed it. That goes such a long way. Going back to the first question of what do you do during a stressful time? Because then it's no pointing the fingers, there's no blame game happening. And I know that's a hard value to like teach or to go off of, but I think if it starts from the doctor and the management side of things, and they're taking accountability for what they say and do, that trickles down into the team morale. And I think that's kind of a huge role. And that kind of goes hand in hand with like no micromanaging. Because if you're going to be held accountable, no one likes to be micromanaged. And so if we are building this team based upon, okay, everyone's going to be held accountable and take accountability for their actions, we're also not going to need to micromanage them so they're not feeling defensive and making sure that they have to like explain everything, because then again, that's not promoting a good kind of culture. And then just really, you kind of like asked like, what's our why? Why do we wake up every day? What's our authentic self? And really it's just to go back to like having that patient first mindset, because there's so too often we get so busy in the computer and making sure everything is set and the schedule is this without realizing there's a patient standing in front of us needing help in the care. And so if we bring it back and dial it in to say, hey, you guys all are in dentistry for a reason. Your why is to help the community and help the people. So I think those are the biggest, like, non-negotiable values and behaviors that I see, you know, really focusing on for a high production, high value team.
Wow, I really like it. Thank you for doing all that homework too. That's awesome. Talk about it's like we can now turn that into a Gallup poll. We can put accountability on there. We can graph it, mark it down. The this whole idea of accountability. I think this is the thing. So often accountability it gets caught up in just what we do and how we do it, or didn't do. And
Yeah.
but for me, it's how do we address accountability from a relational standpoint about how did we invest in, protect, and grow the relationships. because at the end of the day, without relationships, we don't have a business. It's like in the veterinary field, I do some work and they talk about pets first, pet parents second. And I said, I said, actually, folks, I understand why you say that, but there's a third that seems to be missing here. Which I said, well, the third is empathetic conversations. I mean, that's what's interesting is in this culture, it's patients first, empathetic conversation second. The ability to, you know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it's such a, I think that's the part, you've got such a direct line to the heart, so to speak, well, the mouth too, but, but the heart. And I love that. I think that you just turn accountability into something that's not painful. It's actually empowering and uplifting and strengthens the whole team. It's beautiful. Thank you, Sadie.
You're welcome.
Lisa, question for you. I was going to do something really silly and say, so what is your average mile on the marathon? And but I won't do that.
You can ask that.
I've done a marathon. Always thought about doing the Ironman, but I never had the discipline for that. So,
well, it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
No, it's quite something what you did. I remember my first marathon was more than enough. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Lisa? I stupidly did an Ironman before I had ever run a straight up marathon. And then I went back and did some marathons. It was not the right way to do it.
That's an interesting approach. Yeah, well, you're certainly not, you don't shy from A, competition, or B, challenges. So
no.
Anyone, you know, again, as we're on this call, or this webinar, and you know, you guys, you're hearing things from our panelists and experts. These are experts that you are going to be able to reach out to and connect with. That if you align with what you're hearing from them, there's a connecting point. On these types of webinars, often we get these great ideas and everything, but we don't do anything with them. We get to what we end up gathering too much information. I encourage you to kind of find a soundbite, a nugget of something that I can reach out to one of them after the call, after the webinar. I'm going to do something different when I get off this, but I'm going to be intentional is the word I like to use, in doing something different to get a different result. So, you know, as you can listen to them and connect with them, there's an incredible capacity of wisdom here to be able to be shared with you. So, having said all that, Lisa, coming back to the question, what role does emotional intelligence, one of my favorite topics, play in improving patient satisfaction in your practice?
This is a perfect question to dovetail off of Sadie's answer. And I think empathy is the theme for tonight. Emotional intelligence is like the silent superpower in patient care. And if we tune into our own emotions and we recognize emotions in our teammates, and we also recognize emotions of our patients, we're going to lead with empathy instead of efficiency. And dentistry, we have to be efficient. You know, most people in dentistry are very efficient people because we've got to stay on time and we have a certain procedure to do in a certain amount of time, and we need specific instruments to do that procedure. And so we're always very calculated. But if we lead with empathy, that is really what's going to build trust and loyalty, not only in the chair with the patient, but with your teammates, and then also for the practice. You know, once you have that loyalty and trust with each other, it's like that well-greased machine that Sadie was talking about. You know, everybody just fires on all same cylinders and they don't even have to communicate because they know what comes next. And that's a huge part of emotional intelligence.
Yes, yeah. We actually use the same. We say our whole thing is about helping people lead themselves well, so they can lead others well, so they get to go home at night and feel good about how they handle themselves and others.
Right.
You know, and you know, that's the piece. That's the piece that I hear. That's where the stress is. That's where burnout starts. That's where all the negative stuff starts to accumulate when you're bringing home stuff you never needed to. But just by being intentional, as you're laying out, Lisa, with understanding emotional intelligence as a I love it, a silent superpower. Love that term. Beautiful.
Yeah, and I think people have a hard time recognizing their own emotions sometimes, especially when you get into those stressful days. You know, your reaction is who you are, and sometimes it impacts people negatively, and you don't even realize you're doing it. And so being accountable for your own emotions first, and then looking at your teammates' emotions and your patient's emotions, it kind of goes in a specific order to have real success with it.
Excellent. Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm actually a professional mediator, and I can tell you that what comes out of people is 99% of conflict is driven by communication and lack of self-awareness or other awareness or social awareness, if you will. But a long time ago, I had to adopt the term that whatever's coming at me, to sort of see it through the lens of that's their best expressed cry for help. How can I help? And it just breaks down some of the fear that's attached to reaching out that we all have. It's part of a whole other conversation about the amygdala, but we won't go down that road right now. But Anissa, I'm going to circle back to you. And the question I have for you, what role does marketing content play in increasing case acceptance, especially for high value procedures?
Yeah, so it's really interesting when you start looking at, in particular, um, educational based marketing, right? Which can 100% be done with social media reels or video content specifically, right? So using video content to push out a social media reels or to be able to put on a YouTube channel or to be able to upload directly to Google. People don't know that you can do that, but you're able to distribute content and post it directly to Google for free so that people can see the video, right? That type of content is gold. It can even go in LinkedIn and X and like all the platforms. But what's interesting is that when you go on there and you, for example, want to be able to help people to do more dental implants, right? And you're coming on and you're saying, you might have questions about dental implants. And you might wonder if you're going to need a prescription. I mean, I'll give you one if you need one. And at the end of the visit, you'll probably ask yourself, what was I so afraid of? You know what? Come in, let's talk about it. Then we'll figure it out, right? You are coming on, you are sharing insight that shows that you know what you're talking about, right? You're building connection and you're helping people to know that they can become vulnerable with you. You're sharing with them that they don't have to be afraid, right? And these sort of things, this is what builds actual connection. And so what happens is with effective marketing, specifically with video content, when people come in, they already feel like they know you. And they say, you know what, I want this person to be my dentist because I feel them. I feel their energy, right? Very similar to when I was looking for a trainer for my toy poodle, a friend said, go and look at their Instagram, right? And I saw a toy poodle that was just like mine, a Velcro dog. And I saw them training dogs. And like a week later, the dog was no longer a Velcro dog. And I called them and I said, I want you to be my trainer. And they said, it's going to be very expensive. I'm like, I don't care. Right? Like, I know that you can help me. And so, really, really good marketing, I believe, has people to say, you know what? These people can help me. They know what they're talking about. They care about people. I can be honest. I can be open, which means that they're already going in there pretty much making their decision. And that's going to be able to help with case acceptance.
Yeah, thank you. And I love that
Yeah.
way, kind of leading with the pain points. Like I know you got questions about this. I know you got questions about the treatment and the cost and all this, and that authenticity, which translates to vulnerability, and whether it's in a video or in person, but obviously those platforms, it just builds such quick intimacy in the relationship. It's just amazing how I love how you phrased that. It's beautiful, and it sounds like you got a pretty fancy dog there now too. So, Sadie, I got a question for you. What practices have helped you retain great team members over the long term?
Again, and I love this question. I went to some of the dentists that have had team members longer than I've been alive. And so I was like, what did you do to retain, these people? And like what are some of your strategies? Because I have, strategies myself, but again, I've been only doing this for 12 years, so I know that I needed a bigger sample size to kind of really see like what is something that can retain team members. And hiring somebody 30 years ago and their why is so different than now. After COVID and everyone working remotely, it's like, what are you going to offer me to come to a job? And so the whole context has kind of changed. But when we really look at it and we ask the people why have they stayed so long, a lot of it does boil down to compensation. Not always. that's never something that's like make or break. Obviously, people's happiness comes way before monetary value sometimes. So they just want to have a chill office where they just feel like they have a really great work family. You know, they spend more time at work sometimes than their actual family. So they want to make sure that just going to work is enjoyable. So I think it's kind of twofold. I'd say helping retain great team members would be obviously offering competitive compensation and benefits. I know that, you know, dentistry is typically in the smaller business category, but a lot of the dentists that do put a little bit of value into some benefit packages for their team, the team is willing to take a lot lower salary because of those benefits that they offer, especially like 401k, PTO, uh, you know, sick days, those kind of things. They place a really high value on that because it's being offered with that flexibility of everything that life will throw at you, versus just I want just the highest dollar amount for what I come to work with. So I think there's kind of twofold there. When I'm helping, I just helped 3 offices onboard new employees, new admin team members, and the doctors were trying to put ads out for like $15 an hour starting. And I'm like, I don't think you're going to get anybody to apply for this position, or retain them for that matter. If they're overworked and underpaid, you know, no one's going to stay to retain them. So being competitive in the market, understanding that there's a lot of like big companies like, you know, Costco's and Walmart's and those kind of major companies, you can onboard with them with little experience for a lot more money than what some dental offices are trying to offer. So I think that would be something to consider. Obviously, in your area, it's different everywhere. And then really, and then I mentioned I onboarded them. Really strong onboarding. The team members that have received an actual like job description and employee handbook, and they know the rules, and they've had the appropriate training, and they're not just thrown in to like just figure it out, and they actually have a really solid foundation that they've built upon. They typically end to stay longer because they have that foundation. It kind of, if you get thrown into a position and it's a whirlwind and you have no idea which way's up and down, and you're just trying to get through the day, you're going to start to feel overworked and you're not going to stay. So building that foundation, I think, is a huge goal for many offices, and not a lot of offices, at least here in my area, they do onboarding. They kind of just promote within and just say, oh, we lost somebody at the front, I'm going to pull someone from the back, or vice versa. And then that typically doesn't start off on the right foot. And then you have a lot of churn and turnover in the practice. So definitely, you know, compensation and having that strong onboarding would be great to retain long-term employees. And then just obviously being a supportive work family, you know, undergoing with the ebbs and flows of life and babies and graduations and weddings and deaths and all the things. Supporting your work family is going to be number one.
That's really good. So, you know, the Gallup had put a last poll I saw, last survey, they looked at what people's needs were. The number one thing was, or number two thing was compensation. The number one was being valued and heard. And the most recent one was respected. It's become very specific. And it speaks to exactly what you're talking about. It's about the family. It's about, but they go hand in hand. I said, but you know, we're talking about a medical practices here. So we have people that have spent a lot of time in school and love theories and practice and science and application and proving and testing. I encourage anyone who thinks that paying the lowest possible wage is the best choice to actually do some due diligence or what it actually costs you to onboard an employee. And then just think about that cost. And if you amortize that over the average length of an employee, I mean, we love to have long term, but if the average is 2 years, what does that actually work out to be a cost per hour? There's real science in this. And it's suddenly, when you start looking at it from that perspective, you can see that there's because a lot of that's hidden costs. It's buried costs because you're already paying somebody else who's now not only can do half the job because they're training somebody else. So I just encourage you to spend a little time and digging into the science of this. What is it? We do a thing, we can assess the cost of conflict in an organization and tell you per employee what it costs in your organization. So I don't know if that makes sense, Sadie, in your world, but I think it would just be so valuable to just um, demonstrate that the lowest minimum wage is not necessarily the right choice.
Yeah. And it's way cheaper to keep an employee, maybe give them a few extra dollars per hour than to lose the employee and start from scratch again. So,
Yeah.
and playing off of people's personalities too. I've seen some offices hire an assistant who's just not good at being an assistant. Like they're just not good with their hands and the tasks, but you put them in the front and they thrive. They love customer service, and then vice versa. I've seen it kind of back and forth. So maybe that person isn't fit for that role. So instead of letting them walk out the door and leave, maybe try and find something that would be better fit for them. So
Yeah, we love to say we don't fire people, we just help them find the right places or right position to be in,
yes.
right? That's firing is means if we're firing someone, it's on us because it's not necessary unless they stole or did something terrible, but generally it's on us as employers. Thank you, Sadie. The next question I have for what do I have for Lisa? No, sorry. Yes, Lisa. How do you handle toxic behavior or negativity? Well, that we're kind of talking about toxic behavior or negativity within the team while preserving unity.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because dynamics have changed in dentistry, like we've been talking about. I think the biggest issue to recognize is that the silence fuels toxicity. And so things have to be addressed fast. And there's got to be a hierarchy of when something is bothering you or something went wrong between two team members, there has to be a point person that everyone is accountable for going to, because it's got to be respectful communication, and people have to know their expectations as well, right? Very clear. I'm a big fan of SOPs. So onboarding and what are your expectations? What are you being held accountable for? So that people understand this is the order in which we take care of any issues that come up, so that it's always one point person and you don't have one person going to another team member and talking about something that happened before the real person should be informed, right? So you got to nip things in the bud. And it's really, unity isn't about avoiding the conflict, it's about navigating it professionally and with empathy, trying to understand why the situation occurred, and was that person just having a bad day? Did their car break down? Did they, are they having trouble with getting their babysitter, like we talked about earlier as well? You never know what is creating the situation until you start to ask questions, but it's got to be addressed quickly.
Yeah, and we've used the word, and you have, Lisa, intentional with questions. There's unhealthy conflict, which is defined as passionately disagreeing with people and taking it personally. But there's a healthy conflict, which is where the brilliance of your team and the intimacy and the richness of the organization is. And healthy conflict is passionately disagreeing and not taking it personally. And so if we're not intentional with questions, as you just said, Lisa, we'll never get to see that. We just suffer through the cold winter of unhealthy conflict until
Right.
it becomes so toxic it takes us down or something worse. So,
yeah, and I think respect plays into that. If you've got to have a conversation where you can be respectful, because if you let emotions get into it, it's not going to be a healthy conversation. And so that's the other reason that you want to address things early to be able to have those courageous conversations, but with respect.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why that word has become so important, because conflict is running rampant in organizations because it's not being addressed. It's just being time. The two slogans: time heals all wounds, not true, and let sleeping dogs lie. They'll bite sometime. So we'll leave that. But let's go to Anissa. I've got a question for you. How can blending marketing and team culture help you reach more people, serve at a higher level, and naturally attract team members who align with your values? Now that is
Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned that before. It's really powerful. When you're going on and you are sharing that one of, for example, your core values is to build stronger communities, or to be able to, really go out and do education, keep learning, for example, right? And you are out at CE events. Maybe you're on a Smiles at Sea cruise, right? Or you're out doing things with your teams at an event, right? What winds up happening, I'll tell you, my dental practice, I own a dental practice. I'm no longer practicing, but my practice does things like, over a Friday night, they'll have a slumber party, right? And they're literally going in like old school with sleeping bags, and they're having fun, and like they're connecting. When other team members see that, who's working for a doctor that just says, well, we didn't have enough people on the schedule today, right? And they're seeing another practice where they're out on a cruise, or they're learning and they're having fun. They're like, I want to go work there, right? Or you are a doctor and you are in a place where you don't feel like your ideas are heard, right? I've been there, right? Where I felt like I've got all of these ideas and my ideas weren't heard. And I'm going somewhere that's innovative. What winds up happening, or see that, I want to be a part of that, right? And so it's really interesting. I do own a dental practice, as I shared before, and we don't have a problem hiring or finding people. In fact, we have people all the time saying, are you guys hiring? And so much so that we actually have an automated process on our website where people can submit um, an employment application at any time, right? We have it in Wufu, so we can always go back when we're looking for a position and we've got everything already there, right? And it's because, first of all, we actually do have an incredible culture. We like, think big and have fun is one of the core values of my dental practice, right? Again, I'm no longer practicing, but like that, when you put marketing on top of that, and people can essentially just have like a camera watching what you're doing, it winds up not only attracting patients, but attracting team members, doctors at the same time.
Well, where do I put my application in?
Yeah.
So you said something, I loved it, what you said there. Just think big, have fun. In my world, I would have a third piece. Everything in my world's in threes, but think big, have fun, give it away. I mean, make this thing contagious, which is what you've obviously did in your practice. And so kudos to you on that, Dr. Broussard. I love that. Sadie, I got a question for you. How do you handle team conflict or misalignment in a way that strengthens trust and collaboration moving forward?
I think Lisa touched a lot on this, and exactly kind of what I had written down is what she had mentioned for her previous question. So what, I would say, obviously, any sort of conflict or misalignment in the practice needs to be handled right away. Just like Lisa said, anytime that there's a conflict and it gets dragged on, or no one addresses it or talks about it, it just creates more toxicity in the practice. Everyone goes home at the end of the day feeling like, no one even cares. It doesn't even matter if I bring it up, because no one's gonna do anything about it, and that's the worst, because you're gonna bring that to the practice every day. So, like Lisa said, find somebody that you should go to, that someone is appointed to be held accountable to kind of listen to all of the concerns. And most of it, like you said, Michael, it all boils down to like a miscommunication, or just like some sort of miscommunication style that happened. It wasn't even about the actual like problem or conflict that's being addressed. And so always start by listening. People always want to be heard. They don't want to hear you just talk about how you can fix the problem. Sometimes I go in, I think I'm like a dental therapist, because I'll just go in and listen to everyone's problems. And it's all the same stuff, right? It's like, yep, she never puts away that one thing, she never puts away the orders that come in for the past 10 years. She's never going to do it. She probably never will. That's like a value, that's something she's never done. But just listening to people kind of vent about that really helps them, and understanding that if they want something to be fixed or something, they should try and do something that would irritate them less. Like, maybe you should put away the order and not expect her to do it, 'cause she never does it. So just being kind of clear and listening, I think, is a good way. I know that there's a lot of dentists or management that will just say, hey, we'll talk about it at the end of the day. but then again, now it just it's festering and it's getting bigger, and then someone gets more angry, so then they just leave at the end of the day, never gets addressed, and then you're causing conflict over and over again. And then just understanding everyone's perspective, being that mediator, Michael, like you're so wonderful at it, just understanding what's the problem, where's the disconnect, why is it communication style, whatever. I work with one office very regularly, and there's always one individual in that practice that just is kind of just always angry. And for whatever reason, she's very good at her job, but just everyone kind of has to walk on eggshells. And everyone knows that. So every time they kind of are asking, like, it's so challenging to work with her, I'm like, yeah, but she does really great and she makes your day really smooth. And you kind of have to walk on eggshells. Again, I don't promote this culture, but nothing's going to change. And so now they've all accepted her as just that's her personality, and they get throughout the day, and now they're all happy again. So kind of bringing that to light, I think, is huge for any kind of conflict. And then I always guide teams into saying a communication style. So instead of saying, hey, was the autoclave emptied? People take that as like a personal attack, as if they're like, oh, I didn't do it, or she was supposed to do it, versus, hey, the autoclave needs to be emptied, can I help you? Or forming it as like not a question but a statement rather. I think that helps conflict, because if I just say like, hey, was this done, that's almost me pointing the finger saying you did something wrong, versus just saying, hey, we need, the trash needs to be taken out, can I help anybody take the trash out? And forming a kind of a statement like that really drastically helps just forming your questions more appropriately than a direct attack on an individual that would promote the conflict.
Wow, you covered a lot of pieces in there, Sadie. I love that. I was thinking a couple of things jumped to mind, though. That this is actually where we put the celebrate the win in, where at a huddle or whatever meeting we do, be a conversation, a win I might have, and you're the one that didn't. You were supposed to take the garbage out, you didn't, but I did it. I stepped in and did it, and I said, I just want to. I just want to celebrate a win I had with Sadie. I know she was really busy, so I saw that, and I know that in our vision for the organization is always excellence in cleanliness, and I just got to embrace that and take care of that garbage for her, and it was awesome. And now suddenly, Sadie's going to start owning the excellence in cleanliness differently, because she wasn't told not what she had to do. You weren't mom or dad to her. She was given space to empower the vision herself. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And it just, that stuff gets fun. That's just good. The cool thing is your culture is perfectly set up for that, because you only have the two layers. You just have this, what you do with the dentistry and these relationships. So beautiful. Lisa, question for you. How do you foster open communication and feedback without fear or resistance? That's an interesting combination of words.
Yeah. I think psychological safety starts at the top, right? So the leaders have to initiate and invite feedback with curiosity. And they also have to have an open mind, so people don't feel like they're being criticized for something that happened in the office. But as leaders, we also have to model that same behavior. And I see quite often the leaders expect one behavior from the team members, but they don't participate in that same behavior. And that gives a mixed message to the team. So when teams, we kind of circled all around this, when teams know that their voice is being valued and they're heard and they're appreciated, the whispering is going to stop and they're going to start to contribute. But it really comes from the top down.
Yeah, and that's it. It's that the buy-in idea here. Like, do you want to be, it's like do you want to empower your team to love what they do with you, or do you want to tell them how to love it with you? It's that idea, and that's the hardest thing to do. And I love that psychological safety. That's a term that's being used a lot, and I think it's just such an important term, because there's just so much. What I hear, there's a lot of burnout in this field, and a lot of stress. And if there's a theory and a practice like psychological safety, as what Lisa's talking about, then have you introduced it in your culture in a way that you can bring down that burnout rate, decrease the stress levels, increase the joy and compassion, the think big, have fun, and give it away principles that we were talking about. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Just as again, if you have any questions for Sadie or for Lisa or Anissa, throw them up in the chat. We'd love to have them there. I know that there's just a lot of good stuff. You're taking notes. Remember, you're catching little things. What's so interesting today is you have three very distinct personalities here with very overlapping passion for people and building relationships, but unique aspects in how they're looking at it. What great opportunity for you to find someone in this mix to be able to help you be more intentional with what you want to do to help your practice thrive. A question, though, I have for you now, Anissa, Dr. Broussard, is in today's digital first world, isn't it that? My goodness. What marketing decisions help dental leaders build long-term trust with both patients and their teams?
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with 2025 marketing, because it is really completely changed from even a year ago in 2024. And it really is as it relates to what's happening with Google, and what's happening with AI. And I remember when I opened my practice in 2001, there was yellow page marketing. And when websites came out, I remember a friend's sister who was in college saying, "You've got to get a website." I'm like, "What's that? www." Well, I went ahead and did it. 8 years later, I had the first page of Google. I was first on Google because I was an early adopter, right? Same thing happened with social media. Social media came out, and I'm like, I remember what happened. I remember what happened with my website, and so I became a very early adopter, and ultimately winded up getting 50 patients a month from a $500 ad spend. 50,000 people following me on social media. I figured out ads and funnels and all of that stuff. And so, about a year or so ago, and I do own a marketing agency, Digital Floss, but about a year or so ago, as we were putting out videos and doing social media content and really getting it seen, Dr. Catherine Alderman, she owns a small DSO, and she's really into AI. We were out at an event. I was speaking, and she's like, "What you're doing is very innovative, because about a couple years from now, no one's going to use Google." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she just finished a program at MIT. And she's like, ChatGPT is going to be such a more powerful, intuitive, better search engine. No one's going to use. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Right. And I actually started to see it. And so we actually started to take video content, as we shared before, helping you get seen as your authentic self. And we started to distribute it and actually give it to Google, and uh, to give it to LinkedIn, and to give it to Instagram, and to give it to Facebook, and to X, right? And so what ended up happening, is that, ChatGPT now, when people are searching, it's not just connecting like SEO did in the past, right? It's actually doing research, and it's saying, "So that I can help you better, do you want a female or a male? Do you want to know what insurance that they take?" Right? It's asking these questions instead of specialty. And so when we have content that's omnipresent, that's how it's actually picking up to make recommendations. And so, in 2025, it looks very different. People are actually migrating away, which is why Google ad spend is going up. And when we start using these strategies of, again, putting video, just giving it to Google when we're running Google ads, what happens is that Google ads are an auction. And so Google ad costs are going to go down significantly. And so you can actually optimize your budget to be omnipresent while still running Google ads. Another thing that I'm looking at a lot when I'm talking to a lot of doctors about, and also, owners of DSOs and things like that, is how people are building websites. And so, in the past, and even, very present, people are going in, and it's like a scavenger hunt looking for the button for people to be able to request an appointment. And so what is better is a very powerful video of the doctor saying, "What if we build a practice on putting the team first?" And it takes integrity. And the team members are like, "I've never worked for a doctor like this." And they're like, "In our practice, you can do all of this dentistry under one roof." And it's on your actual website that's hosted on YouTube. That's going to increase your SEO. But it's there on your website with a big, big area where people can request an appointment. Now you're going to have that ability to build that connection, to be able to get more leads, to get people to actually request an appointment. So I think that, we've done things like the way that we've always done them, like we're walking like zombies, like, oh, this is what marketing's, looking like, but things have really changed. And so being aware and getting curious to discover what marketing looks like in 2025, I think is just like not think, I already know because I see doctors that, we're seeing get, big airway cases on ChatGPT. This is where we're at right now. And so it's really, I think, very wise to open up our eyes and start asking those questions to be able to make sure that we're relevant in 2025.
That's great. Thank you, Anissa. I think you've hit the nail on the head as far as nothing stands still. Google changes their logarithms like 6,000 times a year, I've been told. So now with ChatGPT, it becomes intuitive in a way that I don't even know you can put a number on it anymore. But we did get a great question here. Thank you, Dr. Broussard. So, and I'm going to go ahead and, Lisa, I'm going to throw this up to you. I'm an office manager, and our staff meetings we have monthly have become the same thing over and over again. Me telling everyone the same thing over and over again. For example, making sure everyone has perfect day schedules, setting up. I feel no one listens to our meetings. Heather Stasico, thank you for that question. Lisa, could you give us an answer on that?
You bet. Heather, first of all, you are so not alone. This is a big issue that people come to me with. And one of the suggestions that I make, I've actually written a course called Optimizing Team Meetings that I offer for office managers and teams, because it's the same thing over and over for a lot of offices. One of the things you can do is have different people run the meeting. So if you're having a morning huddle, for example, or a stand-up, right? That's the new word for it. When you're in your stand-up, every week, have a different person run the meeting, because we all look at different things from a different perspective, right? I'm a hygienist, so I'm going to look at what's going to impact the hygiene schedule. Dental assistant looks at more, the doctor and the assistant, and administrative looks at different things. And so every week I run it this week, the doctor runs it next week, and the doctor doesn't get to escape, right? Everybody takes a turn. The other thing you can do with team meetings is have a different person run the meeting. You have a facilitator, right, that's running the meeting. You have a different person taking notes. And every time you have a team meeting, most people have them for like once a month. Every time you have that team meeting, it's a different person putting a different spin on it, different perspective. And it's not falling on the same person over and over and over, because you're frustrated, nobody's listening, because it feels like the same thing over and over. And it gets the team a lot more engaged and holds everybody accountable, because your turn's coming. If you have 12 staff members, you do it once a month, right? And so it's a nice way to distribute just the roles of what people are doing at the meetings.
Excellent.
Did that help?
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. And Heather, I'm sure that helped, and I'm glad you asked that question. What a great question. But I'm just looking at the time, ladies, and I'm just going to share my screen here. We have come to a time where we need to start wrapping up, and it's been awesome. As I mentioned earlier, we have a special gift for you all. Remember, I had that little teaser, and the gift is courtesy of the founder of the Thriving Dentist Annual Dental HR. His name is Narain Arulraja, and Narain is also the CEO of Echo Marketing, who are our sponsor for this event. And as I mentioned, they're a digital marketing organization dedicated to the healthcare industry with a very special focus on the dentistry field. And as a token of our appreciation for your time and your participation, they are offering you a free marketing strategy meeting with Lila Stone. Now, Lila is a highly experienced Thriving Dentist consultant. She's also the marketing director of Echo Marketing. And this 1-hour session is designed to provide really immense value to your practice. Alongside what Dr. Broussard was talking about, just the uniqueness of market. If you're not a marketing expert, then some of this is applicable. If you are, then you probably know all this already. But Lila will dedicate 6 hours of research before your meeting with her. Again, this is free. There's no strings attached. Before your meeting, analyzing your online presence in key areas such as Google ranking, social media performance, website effectiveness, branding strength, online visibility and engagement, key search terms that are helping attract patients, and areas of improvement to enhance your reach. So during your session, she'll share those findings with you, along with immediately practical, actionable things you can do to strengthen your digital presence. You'll also receive a detailed customized report summarizing everything discussed that you can refer back to and implement changes at your discretion. You just simply need to book the session. The link that's in the chat, you can go ahead and click on that to book your meeting. And as I say, it's completely complimentary. There's no hooks or tricks here. And when I get something like this, I always have to kind of look it through two questions. The first question for me is like, what's at risk for me to do this? Well, the only thing really is your time. And of course, it's super valuable. I get that, but that really is it. The second question is probably more relevant. What's at risk if I don't? And again, if you're an expert on marketing, you got this thing all nailed down, then it may be not for you. But if you don't, well, I'll leave you to make that decision on your own. But I want to first of all thank our expert panel tonight, Sadie Stewart, Lisa Copeland, and Dr. Anissa Broussard. You all were amazing. So much insight, best practices, and by a mile, actionable content. Collectively, you've made the complex simple, the hidden visible, and the difficult easy. Secondly, thank you to all of our attendees for the privilege of your time and your participation. Without you, we don't grow together. And guess what? If we don't grow together, we don't get to set each other up for success. So keep coming back. A reminder to like, share, and review us on your favorite social media. We love likes and followers. And be a part of someone else's success. So until next time, on behalf of our panelists, keep striving for excellence and exceptional patient care. Mike Walker, till next time, thank you.